Hi everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We're taking another look here, of course, at Bitcoin, helping you understand best practice, big picture, and obviously, well, what the heck's going to do next here, right? Because today is Sunday, Eastern markets open here in a few hours, and a lot of things can change in a blink of an eye. So we want to kind of look at that and much more, of course. And just know if you are new to the channel, I really truly do love teaching people to trade, and hopefully you can learn something here today. I do also have a trading academy, community, and signal group, so be sure to check that out. The cryptocash.tech is a site, link in the description below. So what we're going to do here is take a quick look at Bitcoin. So the big picture is it's not great, right? The macro we've already identified is pretty terrible, and in the general sense, we're still bearish until we break this descending trend. So this week could be a very interesting week. I'm speculating we might see some red this week just based on a handful of other factors, but generally speaking, based on what we see here so far, we got to expect the price to continue to get rejected until it doesn't, okay? That's kind of the anticipation. Will it potentially bounce up to 20,000? Yes, it could. Could it hit 20,500? Absolutely. But if it doesn't close and stay closed above this descending trend, we're going to be in a difficult position where the price action could continue lower and retest those levels, like I mentioned yesterday, at 17,600, possibly even lower depending on the overall state of how hard that goes down. So I just say I would expect for the price to go down at this point so you're not disappointed. And then if it goes up, great. Just think about it as a better buying opportunity. I try to have X amount set aside for a specific instance like that, so that way I can add to my position when it hits the price point that I'm looking for. All right, so again, keep that in mind. It's kind of where we're at here for Bitcoin in the general sense. RSI obviously still descending. Nothing really positive of note there. We do have a slightly higher low on the RSI as well as we do on the price action, which is good in a sense. And also, if you were to take a look at the big picture, this is also positive because if you see the Fibonacci circle, we can of course identify that we're within this range of 0.786 and essentially the 1. Okay, so in other words, 0.786 to 1, that range there is essentially a nice support, and we should be probably range bound in that area for some time until it breaks back up either above or just slowly eventually progresses upwards, right? But the key here that I want to try to take away is that we are likely at the bottom. Again, it's a likelihood. We might see again a red week this week where it bounces off that support at 17.6, but as you can see, that Fibonacci circle, coincidentally, from the most recent high to the most recent low, we've come down to a full circle. In other words, when you're at this point here, that's a strong support level. That's typically a strong resistance level in other instances, right? So again, keep that in mind. The likelihood of breaking below that is fairly low, but I think it's best to expect that to happen. So there is somewhat of a silver lining, but that's probably the only thing that I can see that's ultimately a positive here in this sense here with the daily or just more so the macro, okay? Now, taking a look at the 4 hour, of course, what we want to look at is pretty straightforward. Simply put, we do have this type of wedge pattern forming, right? So if you count the candle wicks, you can kind of see the wedge is working itself up and essentially into this little pattern, right? Now, we could go a little bit tighter on that, of course, and just kind of use it with the candlestick bodies, and you can kind of see that it's kind of working itself in here to a potential breakout to the upside. Now, I say potential to the upside because, again, we've consolidated above support at 18,800 for some time. But once again, we're below a resistance at 19,800. So there is a good chance we could see the price kind of jump up today, perhaps even when the Eastern markets open. And then tomorrow morning, if the traditional markets are red, then obviously we see the price action come down. Futures are closed right now. We can't really look at that. But generally speaking, there's a couple of different scenarios that we could see, and it's definitely something to pay attention to. Before I forget also, just want to let you know I do offer a really awesome discount, or more importantly, transfer bonus cash with BitGet. Okay, so just to clarify, in this regard, when it comes to BitGet, highly recommend you use their exchange. They're a fantastic exchange. Just want to kind of throw it out there that you do have a really healthy amount of transfer bonus cash. So if you were to transfer funds and use their exchange, you can qualify for up to that amount between now and November 30th. And again, the main reason why I use them is because they allow leverage in the United States for a lot of my members. So I'm kind of recommending that we check that out because it turns out that they have fantastic level 2 data and a really, really good exchange to use. Super simple. So check that out, of course, again, in your own time. Just want to kind of remind you before I forgot. So here's the thing with this 4 hour time frame, we're stuck underneath the 50-day set moving average, right? You can see that kind of working concurrent with this trend line here, right? So essentially we got the 50-day working its way down. That's a very common occurrence on the 4-hour and the daily. And when we see that happen, we want to kind of expect the price action to continue to get rejected by that. But you got to keep in mind it's retested it multiple times in the past, and the potential breaking through that could be greater now. Now keep this in mind too, depending on how you draw out these lines, obviously, because mine is going from the candle wick. But if you just use the candle bodies, for example, you can see that we've lost this trend, okay, or at least tentatively lost the trend. It's not official because it broke below, but that is absolutely something to kind of pay attention to and to recognize, because that could factor in here to, you know, the potential of the price action going lower. Because when you think about it, we've made higher lows for some time, right? Well, this current low is parallel with the previous low, okay? So that's essentially no longer printing higher lows, at least for now. And so as long as this candlestick doesn't close any lower than 18,900, then we're okay, I guess you could say. But for lack of better terms, this is still not a fantastic sign, okay? So a little too early to tell if it's officially broken, because again, confirmation to me is a couple of candlesticks closing below or above a certain resistance or support. So to me, we're not there yet, but that's not fantastic. We also see this obvious distinction here on the RSI, where the price is getting rejected off of 50. It's a very common occurrence as well. So that implies we could see a red week. In that sense, this could be the beginning of that transition, you could say. MACD is losing its momentum as well. So in general, the 4-hour does not look fantastic. I would speculate, just based on what we've seen here so far, there's more likelihood of downside versus upside in the next week's worth of trading. Again, it's too early to tell in that sense, and you can't dictate a whole week's worth of trading on a 4-hour, descending type of pattern. But for the moment, that doesn't look great. But here's some positive, I guess you could say. Again, we're always looking for higher lows to have a trend reversal, right? Well, technically, this low right here that we're in right now hasn't officially closed yet. So obviously, it'd be nice to be able to have a closure where we're at or higher. But what I'm getting at is, as long as we don't close below, once again, about 18,900, we're still printing higher lows, and that would be a very positive thing. So again, I think it's best to be patient in this regard. Don't just jump in because of the fact that it seems bearish this week and you're just going to short for the week. I would wait for confirmation, and a lot of times confirmation comes from waiting for the traditional markets to open, as well as more time in this area, right? So I know it's difficult to be patient as a trader, but it's probably one of the best skill sets you could acquire. I teach this in my trading university all the time. It's important to have solid foundation, solid risk tolerance, but also not to just feel like you're missing out. Because that fear of missing out is a terrible thing. You're going to miss a lot of entries, right? But you're also going to find better entries if you wait for them. Okay. So again, it's just one of those things. So try never to force a trade. I know it's really easier said than done. So let's take a look last here at the cloud and kind of see where we're at. And once again, I mentioned before, when we're range bound, which we have been for some time, you can see it kind of working itself into this little pattern. You really don't have a tremendous amount of reliability with the cloud. Okay. In other words, I mean, with it being below the cloud right now, it doesn't mean you're just going to want to short, right? Because again, it's still making higher lows. But once again, you don't necessarily want to go long because we still haven't any confirmation, right? So it's kind of where we're at there in that sense. Sorry, guard dog duty. All right, so last thing, of course, is TD sequential. Let's take a quick look at this here and kind of see what's going on. You can see we have a 9 previous, of course. I did cover that in yesterday's video. And then, of course, comes up to a 7 and consolidates sideways. So we did just hit a 9 recently, so it makes sense this pullback is happening. So what would be awesome is for us to see this 9 here on TD sequential and for it to go sideways at this level and then to continue to increase. If we continue to come lower and retest 18,800 and go below that point, that would not be positive. Because again, I'm looking for a closure above 18,800 today. I think that would really give us a good solid confirmation that we're not going to go any lower in the immediate future. But if we do close below that, that would kind of, I wouldn't say it'd spell disaster, but that there's good potential we could see some red either tonight or tomorrow when the market opens. A lot of it has to do with the traditional markets. I mean, we look at the dollar index; it is having a really good time. All right, and with it being as extended as it is to the upside, that's really causing the traditional markets to take a hit. And so as you can kind of see, dollar index goes up, S&P, NASDAQ go down. So those are just things to kind of pay attention to there. Also note too, Bitcoin dominance is kind of drawing dead for the moment. So that's why we kind of see a lot of altcoins doing their own thing for the moment. And this is very common on the weekends. So just be ready for this to change when the market's open tomorrow. So I'm excited to kind of see what happens. For now, though, I'm going to sit on the sidelines, and I'm considering an altcoin, of course, but when it comes to Bitcoin, long or short, whatever, we're just going to leave our long open and call it good for the moment because, again, we don't have a really super tight stop loss, so I feel comfortable doing that. Last but not least, too, also, if you're a community member, I'm going to make some training videos on this, but I do highly recommend always using low leverage and low amounts. Like, if you're going to be using any type of leverage, make sure your position size is effective and appropriate based on your overall portfolio, because liquidation, in most cases, if you're using cross margin, is based on your total amount in your portfolio. So your liquidation would be lower potential of having that happen if you have smaller position sizes and you have more liquidity. Okay. Again, just things I'm going to definitely cover there. I'm going to add that to my trading university as well, just so you can have it. But for the moment, be cautious, be careful. We don't truly know what's going to happen. This doesn't look fantastic for now. And right now, of course, the day is still young, but we are seeing a doji candle here forming for Bitcoin. And that's typically not a great sign. Obviously, it's still way too early to tell, but there's more negative than positive for Bitcoin right now as far as wanting to go down versus up. That's basically the bottom line. All right. Hope you learned something here today. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you have a great rest of the day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.